Good news, we're breathing. Good news, we're alive. Good news are here, and no one can deny. I say good news, we're breathing. Good news, we're alive. Good news are here, and nobody can deny. You can break my heart, you can break my bones, but no one can break my spirit, 'cause my spirit is my home. You can take my money, you can take my time, but no one can take my spirit, 'cause my spirit is mine. I say good news, we're breathing. Good news, we're alive. Good news are here, and no one can deny. Oh, good news.
Welcome to How We Live, a series for and about women finding beauty, purpose, and meaning as they enter midlife. I'm Dr. Natasha Ghosh, an educator, therapist, daughter, wife, mom, and a woman approaching 50 who's just trying to figure it all out. In this series, I'm inviting you to join us as we talk to a diverse group of women about the unique challenges and pleasures of aging in our culture. This episode is about wisdom, the kind we inherit, the kind we share, and the kind we create. In many Indigenous and neo-pagan cultures, the role of the crone is revered. She is a wisdom keeper, a goddess, and the type of grandmother hypothesized as an evolutionary necessity. But in folklore and many Western narratives, the crone is imbued with more sinister characteristics. She is unattractive, bitter, and even cruel, a mean old hag, jealous of younger women's beauty, and angry at the men who prefer them. But for acclaimed scholar Clarissa Pinkola Estes, the crone is the one who sees far, who looks into the spaces between the worlds and can literally see what is coming, what has been, and what is now. The crone represents the ability to see with the heart's eyes. That's a far cry from the wicked witches, hateful stepmothers, and evil queens we grew up with in fairy tales. In this episode, we'll hear from women talking about the lessons they've learned from real women, mothers, grandmothers, aunties, and mentors, and what it means to them to pass those lessons on to the next generation. For some, these connections are rich and ongoing. For others, they're marked by loss and distance, or perhaps never really existed. In my practice as a therapist, many of my clients are reflecting on how these connections have changed, and there's a sense that something vital may be slipping away. In a fast-paced world, how do we hold on to these traditions while shaping a more intentional and connected future? How can we restore a positive, powerful relationship to growing older, becoming the crone, if you will, and ushering in a new era of wisdom, freedom, and personal power? Who in your life passes on wisdom and tradition?
In my family, like I said, we're just a little unit with not a lot of extended family. All my grandparents passed either when I was very young or before I was born. And so that's not, I'm pretty in the dark in that area of my life.
It's a good question, because it's sad to go through some of these pictures I went through as well, and like not know who certain people are or when certain things happened, or like, oh, these people were in the same room together. Like I don't have someone to ask, and I wish I did.
Because I was a woman that was not actively passed down, so I watched. But I guess it was all through my going back and looking at my life story, not so much something somebody taught me.
This picture is of my mom with Ella, and I feel really blessed to have this lineage through my mom and her mom that were really big influences on me growing up. My mom's mom, who I called Mom, she was my grandmother, she was, first of all, very funny and spirited, and was a big prankster and had lots of energy, a lot like my mom. And she also was very spiritual and a seer. So she was the first person that taught me about energy and healing, knowing that there is this higher power, knowing that we're all energy and how to manipulate that energy and how to work with that.
In a way, I've been very, very blessed. I've always had people that took me under their wing. So when I was into the spirituality really deeply, I had a man who just took me under his wing, and he would call me every day and he would say, "So what'd you learn today?" And the same with my writing mentor. You know, she's got like 40 some odd years worth of writing, and she's, I never remember people's ages, if she's 75 or whatever she is, something like that. You know, 14 books, but a very wise woman who's just took me in. Like, people paid for her type of mentorship, and she just took me in, mentored me. Occasionally when I could, I've paid, but a lot of times I didn't. And she's been there for me.
Before marriage, not having a father while I was growing up, my aunts, they played a big role, and I was adopted at a very young age by one of my aunt. So yeah, she passed so much wisdom, tradition while I was growing up. Then I got married, moved here, my mother-in-law. She took that chair. Awesome.
My dad was a great storyteller, and he involved me in a lot of things, you know, everything from, you know, agriculture to killing snakes, poisonous snakes, to, you know, learning to ride a motorbike. Like, you know, he really was a very engaged, you know, parent. And I think I was very lucky to be part of a family that was like that. So yeah, that was, you know, kind of really nice to grow up, you know, with that kind of love and acceptance, I would say. And a lot of stories, lots of, you know, family, you know, values and things were passed on, you know, to me.
I recently went to visit my mom's homeland of Wales, and it was an amazing experience. And I saw a few family members, but again, there's not many of them left, you know, just regaling those old stories of what my mom and her sister and her parents were like as kids. Felt really good to begin to uncover that. And it feels good to belong to something. Like, I moved so many times, and I always wished I belonged to some like cultural group or religious group or somewhere where I moved to a city and it was like, the Ukraine Center, my people. And I've never had that, like, who are my people? You know, I've kind of made my own community of like wellness people and adventure outdoor people. But like, it must feel really good to have belonged to one thing or something for a lifetime. And that's, yeah, not how I grew up.
Traditions to me are more about ritual and the ways that we come together, especially in family. It's like, those are the ways that we come together and we celebrate major milestones, or we have meals. And I think that ritual is really, really important for connection. And that tends to be like sort of also a shared thing with everybody. I'm actually more curious these days about what are the words that are being passed down, and to what extent is it wisdom?
I'm a bodybuilder, I lift heavy weights, or I have so many tattoos. I look different. I do things differently. For example, a few years ago, I just cut my hair very short. So they think that I'm not following the culture, so I'm a different person. I feel like I'm not breaking any boundaries. All I'm doing, working out. I'm sending a positive message to society, but they still feel like, no, this is not in our culture.
Some of the times when you actually dig into that, is it's less about, you know, here's something that's going to help you have an incredible life, and it's more often warnings about trauma and fear that we're actually then passing on to future generations in ways that maybe are not as healthy.
What is the most important thing you've learned from an elder?
You know what's funny? You know, the first thing that comes to mind is actually one thing that was passed down to me is my like grandmother Anita, who I don't remember, on my dad's side. She taught my mom, and my mom taught me that every meal needs to start with olive oil, garlic, and onions. And I don't know, I don't know if that's the most important thing, but that feels like home.
My mom was somebody who was very unabashed. She knew about energy. I don't know how she knew, but I just remember she taught me from a very young age.
The strength. This lady is so strong, Natasha. Very strong woman. You can throw her anywhere. She will find a way to get out of that place.
My grandfather, up until his 70s, would walk every day, 4 kilometers. And he would go with his little basket of flowers to give it as an offering in the temple and then walk back. And, wake up on time, sleep on time. Very disciplined, simple life was very important to his well-being, and with my grandmother too. And so those kind of important things were passed on.
One of my elders is Sharon Jinkerson Brass. She's an amazing, amazing woman. And she said to me that until we know who we come from, we're lost a little bit.
Every time I start a meal like that, not every time, but a lot of times, like, it connects me back.
Something that I could call source or God, or know that there's this higher power, got me through a lot of trauma. I wasn't alone, because I felt like I had to go through it alone, but I wasn't. And so that's probably one of the biggest gifts that she gave me, with all of that knowledge and that sharing.
Because of her, my kids are very strong. So she's actually, I learned strength from her.
And so I got to see how they made sense of life and the discipline they had and how it helped them to stay healthy.
That really impacted me, because it also helped me understand why I was so lost and confused, because I didn't really know enough about who I came from. So I pray a lot to my ancestors. When I'm writing, I pray. My last book poured out of me. I would pray and lay tobacco and ask for their assistance. So prayer is the biggest teaching. I've prayed all my life.
As we move more towards these small family units, or this idea of, this isn't my story to tell, what do we lose when we stop sharing with each other?
Love. Love, because family is very important. That's the message I get. I feel like raising a kid, sometimes you need help from outside as well.
It's so hard to have the expectation that you can do it all by yourself, that you can raise a child and make all the meals and think of all the meals and both have full-time jobs. Like, my heart hurts for all these isolated families where both parents are working full-time, and there's so much stress around just the things that we should all relax into, like enjoying family meals together and walks and relaxing and reading and all those things that should be part of a well, happy, joyful life are really hard to fit in when you're in all these little isolated units.
When you stop sharing, you sometimes erase an entire part of, your heritage or culture from being passed on to the next generation. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say I wanted my kids to be very Western, and therefore I don't want to introduce anything Indian. These children then will have nothing to pass on one day to their own children, right?
To me, what I wish that I could go back and do with what I know now would be to dig into the stories that they weren't telling. Because, see, again, with the emotions, oh my gosh. Because, my grandparents had they were refugees during the Second World War, and came to Canada on a one-way ticket. And they didn't talk about that story. So, they talked about the, like the jobs that they held, or the, the boat that they were on, and they talked about, how hard things were on the farm and so on and so forth. But the stories that actually had the wisdom that is worth sharing and is worth talking about weren't told.
How do the stories of the elders in your family get heard, and are they revered or maybe viewed as less capable or something in between?
Unfortunately, I think most of it is overlooked. You know, everyone is dealing with their own thing. Everyone finds their information their own way.
My kids say that all the time. Oh, you don't understand our trend. Oh, this is the way, or our grandma, grandpa, they don't know what's going on. Of course, it's been viewed very differently because while I was growing up back home, we respect our elderly. Whatever they say, we take it as okay. This is how it happens. But not anymore. These kids, they have so much information. They challenge every point. Even I have to say something to my kids and we don't have a much gap. They challenge. They challenge my view. They're like, no, not necessarily, you're right.
You know, I'm thinking about my kids now, and obviously as a parent, you want to impart wisdom and you want to give them lessons, right? I know we're both laughing because it's like, holy shit, was I ever wrong? But, because I was like, I thought, oh, I'm so responsible for you. And they so have a self-guiding kind of, you know, their own motivation. I had to pull everything back. Not, oh, I know you're hurting and I want to help you through this. I literally had to understand that they're going through their process and I just have to wait.
This is actually strong generation. I like that. I love that they think, they want more explanation. They just don't take your word as okay, my mom said that and this is right. No, they do their own research, they question. So of course, we here it's not the same. No, we don't take aging as that person is super intelligent.
I do have a lot of wisdom, but they don't hear it unless they ask for it. And then I'm more than happy to share it with them. But that waiting and that, oh God, I'm watching you walk into a wall and I'm like, could you stop banging your head on that wall? It's the hardest thing I think a mother has to do, is watch her kid go through that struggle and go through that suffering and pick the wrong person or do the right. But then when they turn around and go, oh, Mom, what do you, then they're willing to listen, and then it kind of, it means more. It means more.
What wisdom would you like to share with us today?
You can never change yourself to make other people happy. And so, honestly, for me, it's, as far as I can see it, the most important thing for anyone to do would be to figure out their connection to their higher self, however you want to call that.
I think it comes back to that checking in with yourself. Like, what would feel good right now? What feels true to you? And then start moving in that direction. You know, find out what kind of foods really nourish you. Find out what kind of body movement nourishes you. Do you love to run? Do you love to dance? Do you love to garden? And you know, what kind of love do you need?
Spend the time on figuring yourself out. Look back at your past and the patterns that you've started living. I think the more we can do that for ourselves, the easier life gets. And I don't mean easy like it's all joy and happy. What it means is you get that resilience to be able to make it through those times that are hard. Or you show up with a friend and sit there because it's hard for them and they can't do that yet. But that's, if you know, this is my epitaph, figure yourself out and live true to it. That's it.
We can certainly see the value of wisdom passed down through family, friends, and mentors, as well as the realization that each generation will likely adapt inherited knowledge to meet the needs of their time. What worked for our ancestors may not fit into our realities, and certainly the next generation has a whole new world of challenges to face that we never had to. What stands out to me in all of this is the power of connection. For those who have close relationships with their elders, the benefits flow in both directions. Listening to their stories, Their joys and their struggles can guide us while also affirming an elder's ongoing value and place in our lives. It's a bridge, a way to honor the past while moving towards the future. As Confucius said, "Old age, believe me, is a good and pleasant thing." It is true, you are gently shouldered off the stage, but then you are given such a comfortable front stall as a spectator. And that may well be true. But for some women, not content to simply watch from the sidelines, Gloria Steinem said, "Women grow radical with age, and one day an army of gray-haired women may quietly take over the earth." While world domination may not be on everyone's agenda, it's nice to imagine a world where every stage of life, every wrinkle, every story, every gray hair is celebrated, where value isn't tied just to youth, productivity, and achievement, but to the richness of experience and who we become. Join us next time as we discuss a topic that is often avoided, but when we face it, can inspire us to live more fully. It's the question of how we die. Until then, I'm Dr. Natasha Ghosh, reminding you that life can be messy. So at the risk of sounding like a boozy book club motto, show yourself some love, trust the process, and lean into all the feels, because this is how we live.
I come from the days when not breastfeeding was considered a progressive act, one that led to my mother and her sister's pillbox hats in black and white photographs. You cannot see the yellow shoes and matching bag, their husbands' hands slip sliding to unzipper sheath dresses never to be worn cooking. High school cookbooks prepared us for a life in the kitchen, and we were told not to speak of our day, to remember that our husbands had long hours in offices with secretaries, and that work included evenings, dinner and drinks, overnight excursions, and we were cautioned against asking where he had been. Women's work is never done lives could be replaced by men who buy modern appliances. My aunt and her coffee, tea, or me life upgraded to kitchen, now serving one instead of many. She got her life filled with modern appliances and housekeepers that she could be kind to. How many times did she say, "It's just as easy to love a rich man as it is to love a poor man"? How many times did she say, "You made your bed, you lie in it"? As her chair was kicked out from under her in a public place, the rich man, the one easy to love, caused her to fall to the floor like a tree in the forest. How the waiters must have clucked when alone and free to discuss this accident of her own making. We all learned that alternative endings can be offered. Some included romance, a lover's spat made right by flowers or furs, diamonds offered as evidence of love.